about Monte. C-Dub on the beat. Back against the wall, CL20's knocking rated. IGI's tripping, validated, shoot ready. Brown incarceration, got my people living daily. Gang wars back to back.
What's good with everybody, man? I hope everybody's having a productive day, feeling blessed. And like I always say, it's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. So this is a story. It's a very tragic story. These are the stories that I love to do, and these are the stories that I really want to get out there, most importantly. Very tragic situation, things that took place. I got as much information as possible for you guys, and just get right into this video, man, because, you know, I think you're going to feel this one like I did when I first heard it. So let's get into it. With that being said, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, always leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Check the links in the description for my Apple and Spotify music. Go ahead and run my streams up. And you can check out my playlist section on my YouTube channel and check out my music right there. Thank you guys for you guys' time. Most important, thank you guys for you guys' support. Now, when you guys know when it comes to prison politics, you know, women and kids are off limits. But that's not the case anymore. And we're starting to see that more frequently. And it's a trip that, you know, I get it. You know, every audience member has their own opinion. But I noticed a lot of my audience members too as well, a big portion, you know, are still involved in the life or are just fascinated with the life, you know, halfway in, halfway out, however you want to call it, still active, but haven't really done much. They'll have an opinion when it comes to certain things that I say. But I'm just addressing the issue that a lot of these prison gangs say no women, no kids, but I'm pointing it out to you guys. There's other situations and other channels that have pointed it out to you guys that women and kids have been targeted behind gang violence, behind gang wars, behind neighborhood wars. And these prison gangs back in the day used to enforce it, but, you know, with greed and the concept of money over everything, over morals, allows these gangs and these prison gang leaders to kind of sweep things under the rug and keep it on the hush. You know, so I guess you could say they're retrieving a lot of hush money in exchange, so they don't, these kids that are getting involved and committing these senseless acts are getting away with it little by little. So we have this 18-year-old girl right here. Her name is Irene, and she was very successful. She was a good girl, but she grew up in El Monte. And we know about El Monte. We know about that neighborhood. It's always been gang infested. We already know the big homies got control of that neighborhood. We've seen a lot of indictments that have been taking place in El Monte. And I just talked about Gabby from El Monte, who just magically disappeared. You know, just because a family raises their kids in these gang-related environments, one thing I trip out on is that if you are from these neighborhoods, right, you're automatically presumed you're a gang member because of the cultura that's promoted. You know, the FB County outfits, the brims, Greenspan. You know, you go to the Santa Fe swap meet, the one I went to, you'll see a lot of the cultura there. You're going to automatically assume, oh, these are cholos, these are cholas, these are gang members, they're part of these neighborhoods. Sometimes, you know, the clothes doesn't make you the person that you think they really are, man. It's just, that's how Chicano culture is, man. There's Japanese, there's Vietnamese, there's Filipinos and different countries that copy and mimic the Mexican cultura, the way we dress, our upbringings, you know, the lowriders, the tattoos all over the place. This girl, just because she dressed like that, and it was just part of her culture, it was part of the outfit, you know, you can't really unnecessarily perceive her to be, you know, involved in gangs, because she wasn't. She just graduated high school, was going to college, got a scholarship, and used that scholarship money to pay for a car to go to school. And I point that aspect out about the car in itself because it's part of this story. She was also on Hoodstocks. She did an interview. She's involved with a lot of nonprofit organizations, you know, getting the kids off the streets, getting the kids to stay away from gangs. She was a volunteer. She was a helper. She was an inspired. Her school even published a whole article about her. And the article enlightens the people about what kind of a student she was, what kind of a good person she was, how she was involved with other people, how she was trying to keep people out of trouble. Even went to Police Explorer. I'm pretty sure that's like a program for kids. You know, they go ride around with the cops and explorers, go trip out on stuff. You know, try to encourage them to recruit them to become police officers. We know what the Police Explorer program really is. She was involved in all of that. And on her free time, she would get involved in a lot of these nonprofit organizations for a lot of things, homelessness, you name it. Hoodstocks brought her on to the show. got her to do an interview. She talks about a lot of positivity. But yeah, she grew up in these down south neighborhoods. A lot of kids grow up in these down south neighborhoods, but just some get away from it, some get involved with it. Well, she got involved in a certain way that led to her demise, an unfortunate demise. And this is a story that trips me out, right? Because I've heard it from a lot of people. You know, that pandemic with COVID, you know, a lot of people got depressed. A lot of people, you know, went through some stuff. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people were struggling. Dude, I've heard countless stories about what that pandemic did to everybody. My brother told me some crazy stories that's like, bro, for the results of what happened and what took place in the pandemic, bro, caused me to do this and that because we were just all at the house. We were all bored. We were all going crazy just staying in the house. And I even have a couple of homies that turned back to using dope because of the stress, because of the lack of money, getting laid off. They ran right back to the streets, ran back to the old habits out of boredom, sitting on idle hands. You know, I wasn't here for that. I wasn't out for the pandemic experience. You know, sometimes I wish I was, but I'm glad I wasn't because every story I've heard was tragic. So she wound up talking to some guy. His name is Hefty. Hefty was from White Fence. And they grew a bond, obviously close. She's young-minded, so she might have been too naive to understand that this fool was going to get her caught up. And that's the point I want to make because I've seen a lot of women get sucked into this lifestyle because of the person they're with, the person they fall in love with, the person that they thought he was, turned out to be something different. So he lured her into the lifestyle, manipulated her, got her to make bad decisions, bad choices in life. And it sucks because a lot of young women are vulnerable to that. And I don't care how many people say, oh, man, she's old enough to think and she's old enough to do that. She can make the choices. I made the right choices. Not everybody's like that. Some of these kids get pressure into these gangs. Some of these kids get pressure into doing that drive-by shooting, get life. Some of these kids don't really know what they're signing up for, plain and simple. Whether you like what I'm saying or not, it's just this is how it works. Because I grew up in this lifestyle and I've seen a lot of young women get sucked into this life and end up with a dude that she fell in love with. And dude, all he did was beat on her, get her hooked on dope, went to jail, made her catch a case, got her accomplice to a crime because she loved that person. She wanted to be with that person. She wanted to sleep next to that person. Whole time got her caught up in some stuff. Just like you see these Mexican mafia secretaries. One just got recently sentenced to 83 months. They're going to utilize these women and utilize these kids to their own benefit. And then when they're done, they're going to move on to the next person that's willing to work for them. Plain and simple. She falls in love with the dude. Honestly, in a relationship. But the whole time, he doesn't get her involved in nothing that he's doing outside of the streets. It's more or less they have a personal relationship. You know, they're obviously boyfriend and girlfriend doing their thing. But when he's on the streets, he's gangbanging out of control. He's beefing with a neighborhood called VNE. You guys are familiar with the neighborhood. When he's thugging on the streets, he's thugging on the streets. But when he's with her, he was with her. But little by little, the more she spent time with him, the more he started bringing her around and bringing her into the lifestyle. So he was a user, obviously an addict. And we know a lot of dudes from Southern California that evolve in these neighborhoods. They you know, when you're in the gang life, dope and then gangs, you know, they coexist with one another. And got her hooked. She was on a course of life, you know, that was very positive, but she was distracted by her love for him, what they had going on. And he lured her into the lifestyle, you know, of using and hanging with him most of the time. But there was times where he was but there was a lot of occasions that when she wasn't indulging with this individual, she was trying to get the individual to convert, to convince him that he had more talent, that he was better than this lifestyle, just to go with her to the volunteer programs, to be involved with the community more. He wasn't having it. Well, prior to the incident, she was missing for like 2 weeks. Why? Because he had her stuck. He had her on doped up with him. She wasn't going home, reporting to her family, to the point the mother and the father had to go to the streets, get some of the individuals that they know, family members, friends from back in the day, and really go beat on some heads and break some noses looking for their daughter. Their daughter was missing. Well, this is what happened. Remember, I told you she used her scholarship to buy a car to go to college. She gets that car, goes, picks him up, with the intentions to get him off the streets. They can go somewhere, spend time together, do their thing, get him off the streets, get him away from his homies. Well, he manipulates her, saying they wanted to go do something. She lets him drive the car. Mind you, they've been together for like the last 2 weeks. She wanted to get him off the streets, get him away from everything, go sober up and talk about this. You know, she was really in love with the guy, but to the point like she wanted to get him out of the lifestyle, get him off the streets. He just wasn't having it. He wasn't ready to turn down the addiction. So He tells her, let me drive the car. Picks up one of his homies. They decided to drive to V&E, to a hotspot. To this location right here, this house where it all took place, where it all went down. She has no idea what's going on. She has no idea that they're going to use her vehicle and use her as an accomplice to go put in work on a rival neighborhood because they're beefing with this different neighborhood. So he picks up another individual, Menace from White Fence. They get in the car. And as they go in the car, they pull up to that same house that I just showed you. And there was a different individual that was from V&E. I wasn't able to get his name. And they got out the car to start beefing with the dude. Well, Menace gets out the car and starts dumping at the dude. Dude runs. And mind you, they got this all on ring camera. It's part of the trial. They're going to get sentenced to second degree, hot one. All of them are going to get life for this. The ring camera was enough evidence to show exactly what happened. How these individuals pulled up, hopped out, banged on the dude from V&E, and started shooting at him. 10 bullets rang out. But the person that lived at this house was a gang member named Grumpy. Grumpy is from V&E. So as the shots rang out, Hefty's driving. Irene's in the passenger seat. Menace, shooting wildly, is running around the car trying to dodge bullets because Grumpy comes out of his house and he's dumping to protect his house. That's stand your ground law. That's why he hasn't been charged, because it was his house. It was his right to protect his household. No weapon was found in his house. That's all they got when it comes to Grumpy's situation. Now, so the shooting takes place. Now, as Grumpy's shooting at the vehicle, 10 shots total were fired at this particular incident. But only one bullet hit one person. It hit Irene in the temple as she's in the passenger seat. And according to the ring camera and the footage that was seen, is that when all the shooting occurred, Hefty drove trying to hit one of the individual that was waiting outside that they tried to catch slipping in the first place before Grumpy came out and started dumping. He used the vehicle and turned it so that way he can use Irene and the vehicle as a shield, and Irene was the only one to get hit. So they drive off after the situation happens. Now, from this particular location where it took place, the hospital is only a 3-minute drive. Guess what? He was driving around trying to drop off his homie and trying to get rid of all the evidence, the shell casings, the gun that they used to shoot at the house. That's what he did, was getting rid of all the evidence in the car, getting rid of all the dope that he had. And during this process, Menace, his whole case was based pretty much on a statement that he wasn't there, he wasn't involved. But circumstances and the camera footage show that he was involved, and that's why he's going to get sentenced and he was found guilty of it. He actually stole her phone. So they covered up Irene with a blanket on the passenger seat, covered her up so nobody could see that there was a woman in front of the vehicle, bleeding from a headshot wound. Hefty covers up his girlfriend while he's so busy trying to, drive around, tell his homies what's up, try to drop off this, drop off that, drop off Menace, get rid of all the dope, and then uses her car, goes to the hospital 20 minutes later. And instead of, since he was in love with this girl, this was his girlfriend, instead of taking her to the hospital, he doesn't want to get caught up for none of this. So he drops off her body and leaves the blanket on top of her in front of the hospital and drives off with her vehicle. Had her vehicle for 2 weeks, where she was in the hospital, and then later on she was pronounced deceased. She passed away. So her being caught up with this individual, and which is my message to a lot of these young women out here that think, thugs is cute, felons is cute, these thugs and gangsters look hot or sexy, they got colored eyes with tattoos on their face. Yeah, it looks good until you get caught up in a lifestyle like this girl did. She had a prosperous life. She had a promising life. And the camera footage, the ring camera, which they had to pay like $4,000 to get that footage. And it shows everything in color, perfectly clear to the judge and the jury, how it took place and how he managed to turn that vehicle so that way he didn't get hit and she got hit. Used his own girlfriend as a shield, then dropped her body out 20 minutes later just so he can get rid of the evidence. The car was missing for 2 weeks. They finally got the vehicle. When they busted Menace, he was in possession of her cell phone. That's how they were able to find out when Menace was there. They tracked Menace down because he stole her phone while she was on the front seat bleeding out. They pretty much robbed her while she was passing away and got all kinds of stuff out of her, whatever money she had, whatever she had on her possession. And he took her phone and held her phone for 2 weeks. And that was evidence in this court proceeding. The worst part about this situation is, yes, no women and kids are allowed to be touched when it comes to gangs. Yeah, gangs men are going to be men. You guys want to thug it out amongst each other. Get rid of each other. Society ain't going to care about it. These prison organizations ain't going to care about it because if you live, you can go work for them. And if you go to jail, you can go work for them. And I've showed you guys plenty of times that there's been a lot of gang members. A lot of these Mexican mafia members, NF members are sanctioning hits on kids, on women now, if they're getting involved in the lifestyle. They're trying to reach out to the family saying that, hey, man, we loved her. We didn't mean for this to happen, you know, with this and this and that. Trying to get the family to speak up for them because right now they're in the county jail getting the blues. And they're pretty much crying about it. Menace wasn't trying to show his paperwork for a very long time, trying to say he was in there for something else. But it's all coming to light. And I believe the family is going to go on Hood Podcast because, like I said, Irene was on Hood Podcast before. The individual that runs Hood Podcast, he's from this local area. He wants to put these individuals on blast. Hefty from White Fence even told the family, don't go on air and talk about this case. I don't want my homies to know about what really took place, especially on Hood Stocks. So the family's going to do it anyways because they don't care what this man's saying. They're just tripping out that he's actually reaching out and trying to plead his case with the family, saying he wasn't meant to happen because of what he's going through and what they're going through in county jail with the Sureno faction and the big homies. But they kind of understand, too, that politics is new generation is different. These individuals are going to get away with a lot more. And that's what I had to tell him. I go, man, if with the right person in charge, yeah, he might get green-lighted and get the blues all day, every day, once a day. But, hey, if he pays a good fine and he does a couple missions and works for them, if he's in the right hands of the wrong, corrupted mind, I mean, it's going to be a slap on the wrist later on because they're already doing life anyways. They ain't going home. Might as well use them as much as you can until you can't no more. So there's still a 50-50 chance that these dudes might get deemed for this because no women's and no kids policy is still in effect as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know of. But they might get away with it too as long as they're willing to, you know, since they already threw their life away, might as well throw the rest of their life away working for the fellas. And that's what makes it disappointing to me and disappointing to the family of the story of the victim that passed away is that these individuals, they're going to probably get away with it. They might not. They might not. They might get, you know, have to face repercussions and punishments from the Sureno faction and the Eme. But it's the simple fact that it's still ongoing. Because I just did a video the other day on TikTok and it was a same thing. A girl that was just sitting in the car with her friends in East LA, but her friend had beef with another gang. They went and shot up the vehicle. The dude they were targeting only got hit in the wrist, but the girl in the back seat took the bullet and she passed away and she was only 18 or 19 years old. So now the drive-bys are still going on and these gangs are not getting reprimanded for them. A lot of these young women, whether they're involved in a lifestyle or not, are still becoming prime targets and casualties of these gang wars, even if they're not a part of it. It's just growing up in these neighborhoods, your friends are your friends. You can't help it if this whole neighborhood is just all happen to be gang members and you're just cool with them. You go to school with them, you develop a friendship with them. Her homegirl is dating this dude, so you're kicking it with the homegirl, but she's kicking it with her own man, and his own man has homies, and you get caught up in the crossfire. A lot of people are falling victim to these stray bullets. And that's what needs to be stopped. And that's why I continue to do these channels and I continue to tell these stories for people and the stories that I look up every day to shed light on it. That a lot of these gangs are getting away with a lot more than what they're supposed to be. And these prison leaders don't really care no more because they're too busy making money and getting strung out in the penal system to even care what's going on to an 18-year-old girl who had a promising life, just fell in love with the wrong person. And that's my message for today because I know I see a lot of these young girls all over social media. Oh, man, if he has 4 dads, he's zaddy or something. Or, oh, if he's from the 13, you know what I mean, he can get it. Like, man, I get it, man. You're attracted to who you're attracted to. But a lot of these gang members, trust me, we all used to lie to women and make them believe what they want to believe until they get caught up in a lifestyle. And once they're in love, you know, it's hard for a woman to leave. It's hard for a woman to walk away. Especially when they're young and they're falling in love. Sad to say, they're emotionally vulnerable to this person. And what this did do is took a good girl that had focus, had dreams, had goals, just placed herself in a bad situation, and he took advantage of that situation, including allowing her to pass away because he didn't get her to the hospital in time. And that's my story for you guys today. So with that being said, like I always say, it's one life, one chance. We only got one chance to do this right. Let's get it done. Peace.